Barbara Crampire. You may boo.
This is so tempting. I just can't do it to Jacob.
Jacob's Wife is directed by Travis Stevens, director of Girl on the Third Floor. It stars Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden, and it tells the story of Anne, the wife of a small-town preacher who develops a newfound sense of self and a thirst for blood after she meets with a mysterious creature, man, woman, called the Master. Girl on the Third Floor didn't really do too much for me. I wasn't really a fan of it past for a few bits of inventive gore and the insane turn it takes in its third act. But I even said back then that I'm curious to see what Travis Stevens does next because it's clear that he loves the genre a lot. Girl on the Third Floor just needed better writing. So here we are with Jacob's Wife, and I am floored. This is a complete 180 from his previous venture, and I fucking loved this movie. I was anticipating a fun, campy, gory time with not really much else to it, and I was blindsided by the depth and maturity that it reached in its conclusion. Jacob's Wife works really well on a few fundamental levels. One, I absolutely love both of the leads in this film. Barbara Crampton is an indie horror darling who is just as prolific, if not more prolific, than she was 30 years ago. And Larry Fessenden, the dude's just awesome. Everything he's in is incredible. He clearly loves the genre, and he's always giving it 110% every time he's on screen. This movie's no exception. Fessenden's giving it his all here, and he is delightful. He's chewing the scenery in all the best ways, and it's endearing, and it's delightful, and it's melodramatic, and it's great. But Barbara Crampton is the real standout here. I mean, this is her film, essentially, and she's great in everything she's in. Anne is a character with a lot of depth. She's a woman who clearly wants more from her life, and is not getting it being in a marriage with a small-town preacher. It's clearly something of a patriarchally oppressive relationship, not necessarily by any fault of any participant. Sure, Fessenden has a very strict, no-nonsense attitude, but it's also clear that he very much loves his wife. It's clearly something of a patriarchally oppressive relationship, not necessarily through any one person's fault. Sure, Jacob has a strict, no-nonsense religious attitude, and Anne has kind of taken to that by becoming very meek and not standing up for herself or speaking up ever. And it sort of plays on the ideas of religious ideology saying that she should be seen and not heard. And it's clear within the first 20 minutes that she's feeling trapped and probably resentful, and is looking for some sort of an out or some sort of excitement to help make life bearable. Enter the Master. This is where the Master comes in, played by Bonnie Aarons, who some of you may know as the Nun. Every scene with the Master, whether the character is on screen or not, is where the film really gets to shine. This character's done entirely practically, kept in shadow for the majority of the film, or out of focus, which really helps to lend to this ethereal presence that it has. And when we finally do get a look at this character, they do a good job at keeping Bonnie Aarons completely androgynous through all the makeup, and it helps to lend to this sort of uncanny valley effect that we get from the character's other scenes. Because our brain is looking at this creature and trying to determine what we're looking at, and it creates a general sense of unease every time the character is on screen. And upon meeting this character, Anne's life takes on a whole new set of principles. She's hungry for blood, she's feeling great about herself, and she's starting to live life by her own choices rather than what her husband tells her to do or not to do. You know, this just means that she has to do what some otherworldly force is telling her to do. There are sequences of Anne being controlled by the Master that could come off really cheesy if they were handled even slightly differently. But through solid editing and a score that is easily one of the high points of this film, But through solid editing and cinematography and a synth score that is easily one of the high points of this film, they end up feeling just as eerie as the characters' other appearances and actually are kind of off-putting when they could be really campy and bad. And it just lends more to this unnatural, ethereal feel, and it's awesome. Where this film really won me over, though, is in its themes and in its presentation. It's clear that Stevens is an avid horror fan, and this film feels directly lifted from the eras that it's paying homage to. There are editing and cinematography choices made in the opening act of this film that are so genuinely jarring to me, not because they're necessarily bad, but because they're techniques that I haven't seen done since like the 80s. It's full to the brim with campy violence and gore and splatstick that feels pulled straight out of Evil Dead. And yet, in spite of that, at its core, it maintains a genuinely moving emotional story about a husband and wife working through their issues to find each other again. It reminds us that boundaries are really important in relationships and that one partner can never be truly happy if they're suppressing part of themselves to please the other. And I don't know, I think that's pretty mature of a theme to have in a film that includes the line, "I'm gonna tongue fuck a hole in your throat until I puke blood." This is a movie that really only could come out in our modern horror renaissance, where more and more filmmakers are doing solid mental health work in the process of their careers and unpacking a bunch of shit and including it in their films, and working it into the themes of those films in the coolest way possible. I'm gonna say that Jacob's Wife is solid. It's a hallucinatory, gory, fun time that ends up being surprisingly moving, and if you enjoy batshit crazy vampire movies like Fright Night, you will absolutely get a kick out of this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. There is a Patreon link down in the description if you want to donate to this channel, help us grow, make new, better quality content for you all to enjoy. You can be like any of these cool people right here. I'd really appreciate it. Even $1 would help. Thank you so much for watching anyway, though. I may be gone for a little bit, or at least uploading less frequently. I'm going to be taking a slight step back from the YouTube thing. Through no fault of anybody's. I just need a small break. I've been working myself to the bone. I have a new job now. I'm drained. Also, I'm going into pre-production on a movie, so don't be expecting as frequent uploads. I will still try and get a couple up a month. Any other updates, I'll let y'all know. As always, though, thank you again, and I'll see you all very soon.
We need to finish this!
How you gonna write this one up, deputy?
Domestic dispute?